1 Corinthians chapter 3. We're going to look at one verse, and we're going to start out by just looking at the first part of it, and then I'll kind of explain the second half of it as one thing. But the first part, we're going to look at three different phrases or parts of this verse. I had no idea it was three until I just thought about that. But anyway, we're going to look at three parts of the verse. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 9. This is something that a lot of church-going people, and I hesitate, and the word Christian probably doesn't fit the people that what I'm about to say, but there's a lot of church-going people that would not want to hear what's going to be said this morning. I'm going to go out on a limb and say there might be some of you here this morning that don't want to hear this, but that's okay because God gives it to me and I give it to you, and that's all I can do. I promise you, and Brandy could testify to this, I'm not smart enough to come up here and preach. I'm not. I missed my turn into Burger King this morning because I thought the driveway was somewhere else. I'm just not that smart. But God gives it to me, and I give it to you, and half the time when I preach, I'm preaching to nobody else but me, and this may very well be the same case. But nevertheless, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of pastors this morning that would not preach about this. There's a lot of pastors this morning that wouldn't preach about a lot of things that are in God's Word. But nevertheless, let's get started. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 9 starts out, we're going to look at just the first four words to start with, and it says, "For we are laborers." Now, Paul is writing the book of 1 Corinthians. It's a letter to the church at a city called Corinth. And the church here is having some problems. There's a lot of divisions going on, and there's a lot of people that are getting together and say, well, you know what? I was saved under Paul's preaching, so I'm a follower of Paul. And some people are saying, well, I was saved under Apollos' preaching, so I'm a follower of Apollos. And all these different divisions are coming up, and the church is getting ready to fall apart, and no work is getting done, and nothing is growing, and the church is getting ready to die. So, Paul writes the letter of 1 Corinthians and pretty much just like smacks them upside the back of the head for, I don't know, 4 or 5 chapters here. I guess it's 11, 15 chapters or so. And he just pretty much just rakes them over the coals and say, hey, stop! Stop fighting! Stop arguing! Why? Why are you doing this? Don't you know that verse 9, we are laborers? What does that mean? To be a laborer means that we have to work. It's kind of like, what's that old TV show? I can't think of the guy's name right offhand, but it was the same guy who played Gilligan on Gilligan's Island. And every time somebody would say work, he'd get that real high-pitched voice, and he'd be like, work? Yeah, he was allergic to work, he told everybody. People don't want to work anymore. Dobie Gillis, thank you. Mine went totally blank on that, thank you. Dobie Gillis, he was allergic to work. He didn't want to work. Not so many people are that way anymore. We don't want to work. But God's Word says we are laborers. We have to work. If we want to see something done, we have to put effort into it. That's what work is. It's putting effort into something to get results out. Why do we work? Why do we have a job? Because we need money. Why do we need money? Well, we have a lot of things that we spend money on. Food is where most of my money goes, as you can tell. But we have to work so we can get money. We have to have a job so we can get money. But we have to work. We have to put effort into anything that we want to see something come out of. If we want to, as an individual, if I want to grow as a person, I have to put effort into my life. If I want to see my relationship with Brandy grow, I have to put effort into that. I have to work at that. Anybody that tells you that a marriage isn't work has lied to you, because it is. It takes effort. If we want to see if I want to see myself grow as a Christian, it takes work. I have to put effort into my spiritual life. I have to read the Bible. I have to pray. I have to study. But what this is specifically talking about here is growing the church. Now, specifically, Paul wrote to the church at Corinth. But it applies to every church, ever. If we want our church to grow, we have to do something about it. Uh-oh. Got quiet. If we want our church to grow, we got to do something about it. It boggles my mind how people can say, oh, well, all we got to do is pray for our church to grow and it'll happen. No. It's not going to work. You know what's going to happen? We're going to be like the 3 churches every day. 3 churches every day, 365 days a year. For the last, 3 or 4 years, the average, every day, 3 churches close in this country. That's huge. Why? Because they are doing nothing but praying for their church to grow. It's not going to work. We have to work. We have to put effort into it. Now, what does that look like? Well, that can look like a lot of different things. But whatever it is, we have to do something. But there's a key to this that a lot of people leave out. A lot of times, man, we want to stop there. We're laborers, okay? We work, and if we all work at our own thing and we all do our own thing, not much is going to get accomplished. Because what's that next part of that verse say? Back to verse 9, it says, for we are laborers, but the next word is so important that we cannot leave it out, together. What does that mean? That means that we have to have a single mind. We have to have a single purpose, and all have to be going towards the same goal. Let's look at a farm. Let's use this analogy of a farm. You have this big farm, just thousands of acres of farm. And you have 50 or 60 people. But if all 50 or 60 people are doing their own thing, ain't nothing getting done on that farm. Once they work together and work for the same purpose or the same goal, then you start to see a farm being productive and produce fruit. But we have to work together. We have to have a same purpose. We have to be on the same page, if you will. We have to have the same goal in mind. We can't say, well, yeah, that's a good idea, but I don't think we need to do it. And if we do something, we need to do it. We need to support it, even if, you know what, I may not think it's a good idea. But if somebody else does, it's worth a shot. And if it doesn't work, what are we out? Oh, well. But we need to work, and we need to do it together, and we need to be supportive of things, even if we might not necessarily agree with it. As long as it's not contrary to God's word, it's worth a shot. We need to be working, but we need to be working together. We can't do anything by ourselves. We just can't. The next phrase, we could stop there. For we are laborers together. Okay, we could stop there. But then we'd be missing so much more. And something so extremely important. That if we try to work, and even if we try to work together, but if we don't include this last part, we are going to fail miserably. Because what does this next part say? Let's read the whole verse again. It says, for we are laborers together with God. If I work by myself, totally by myself, it's not going to work. But even if we all work together, and we try to leave God out of it, we're going to fail. It is so important. We have to include God in what we do. If we let Him lead us in the things that we do, and if we ask His blessing upon the things that we do, then we will see the increase that Paul talks about back up in verse 6. And really in the whole first part of this chapter. We have to work together with God. And if we have people in, man, they're wanting to do stuff for God, and we're not willing to work with them, then we have got a problem. If people want to do something, and again, even if we don't necessarily think it's a good idea, but God is leading them to do it, then we need to be on board with that. Even if we don't think it's a good idea. We need to support them. And we need to support what God chooses for us and leads us to do. We have to work together with God. Because that's how things get done. Now, why do we have to do the last part of that verse? Let me explain it quickly. It says, you are God's husbandry. This isn't necessarily creating an illusion of marriage per se, but it's an illustration of being together with God. So we are working together with God, but we are also, the last part of that verse says, God's building. God has built us up so we can be in a position to work with God. That's the last part of that verse is talking about there. So we are laborers, or at least we should be. A lot of churches and a lot of churchgoers today don't want to hear how they need to work for God. They want to be blessed by God, but they don't want to do anything about it. And there's plenty of so-called pastors out there telling you this morning, sure, all you got to do is ask for it, and God will bless you. It doesn't work that way. We have to be laborers together with God if we want to see stuff happen. Even if and this doesn't just apply to our church. This applies to us as individuals. If we want to see ourselves grow, spiritually speaking, we got to get on God's program. Excuse me. We have to work together with God. Jim, if you could play us a song, maybe you need to pray. Maybe you have a need or something's going on and you just want to talk to God about it. Come on and talk to God about it.